Naming. Alright, this is one of those things that students start to flip about. Don't flip though, okay? This is not complicated. You just got to learn a couple rules. But there's a couple questions you got to ask yourself before you know how to name a compound. The first question that you have to ask yourself is, do I have two elements, like, I don't know, carbon and oxygen, or do I have more than two elements? So when I look at the compound, maybe I get like Na, and I get carbon, and I get oxygen. Okay, so the first thing you have to ask yourself is, do I have two elements or more than two elements? Now, if you've got two elements, this is the lecture for you, all right? So if you've got two elements, there are two different options you're going to have. Then the first option you could have is a metal and a non-metal. Now, when you have a metal and a non-metal, you're going to do a couple things to alter the name somewhat to when it's in a compound, okay? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but let me go along with this, okay? When you have a metal, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to write down the name found on the periodic table, okay? So look at your periodic table, find the name, write it down. The next thing you want to do is you want to check to see if there's more than one possible oxidation number that element can have. For example, sodium, if you look above sodium, there's only one possible number, okay? It's a positive 1. But if you look above iron, you'll find a 2 and a 3. Now, if you have more than one possible oxidation number, you're going to need to figure it out. Okay, so if you got more than one possible oxidation number, the first thing you need to do is determine the charge, just like what we've been doing when we're looking at the oxidation numbers. Okay, so use the ones you know to figure out the one you don't know. And then put the charge in parentheses in Roman numerals. Okay? Now, Roman numerals can get some students confused, okay? So 1, if positive 1 is the charge, you have 1 like that. If positive 2 is the charge, it's like this. If positive 3, it's like that. Positive 4, IV, and then positive 5 would be a V. Positive 6 would be a VI. Positive 7 would be a VII. Okay, I don't think we'll get any above that. Too bad if we do. No, I'm just kidding. So if you've got a metal, write down the name that's found on the periodic table, and then check. If you got more than one possible oxidation number, you need to follow it up with the parentheses so you can figure out the charge and put that charge into the parentheses in Roman numeral form. I'll show you an example here in just a second. What about the nonmetal? Well, the nonmetal, pretty easy here. All you got to do is drop the ending. So if it's chlorine, like drop the INE part, okay? Drop the ending and add IDE. So chlorine becomes chloride. Nitrogen becomes nitride. Oxygen becomes oxide. Sulfur becomes sulfide, okay? So that's how your nonmetal is going to change a little bit. Let's do some examples. All right, examples. If I have CaCl2, and then I've got FeO. Now, here's what you're going to do on this. On the CaCl2, what we're going to do is, again, take that calcium, okay? And you're going to look it up on the periodic table and write down, again, the metal. You're supposed to write down the name found on the periodic table. So we write down calcium. Then we got to check. Look above calcium. And do you see more than one possible charge or just one? Well, when I look at it, I see just two. So the charge is 2. That's it. There's no other possibilities. So just leave it as it is. Okay? Now, nonmetal. What are we supposed to do with the nonmetal? Drop the ending and add IDE. So am I going to write down chlorine? No. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Drop INE. Okay? So it goes from chlorine to, you got it, chloride. That's pretty simple, right? CaCl2, calcium chloride. All right, next one. This is a little bit harder. FeO. Okay, let's look at this here. The first part is the metal. That's Fe. Oh, by the way, how do I know it's a metal and a nonmetal? Well, metals are on the left side of the periodic table. Nonmetals on the right. Okay, just to clarify. So this is a metal. That's Fe. Write down, it says on that metal, write down the name found on the periodic table. Fe is iron. Iron. Now, next thing I gotta do is I gotta check. Do I have more than one possibility for charge or oxidation number? Look at iron. There's a 2 and there's a 3. Yep, that means you gotta put a parentheses there. And we're gonna have to figure out the charge. Okay? So let's do that. We know that this right here is oxygen, and it's a -2 always. Now, if this is a -2, then Fe has to be a +2, because they have to add up to 0, okay? So +2, -2, all right, adds up to 0, we're all good. Now, what is the Roman numeral then? If Fe is a +2, what's the Roman numeral for +2? Well, it looks like this. So we have now iron 2, and then, do I write down oxygen? No. We changed the ending of our nonmetal to IDE. So it's not oxygen, it's now oxide. Alright, so that's how we name when we have two elements and we've got a metal and a nonmetal.